In today's video, I'm going to start the Linux tutorial. This will be a part of our DevOps series. Linux is one of the basic stuff that you guys have to understand before you start. So I prepared a one slideshow for you. This was really helpful for you guys. First, you have to understand the Linux concept. If you just follow my 4 to 5 videos, I'm sure that you will become expert in Linux, and by follow the entire series of DevOps, you become zero to hero in cloud computing. First is that introduction to Linux. In first slide, we're going to discuss regarding the introduction to Linux. So what is Linux? Linux is highly beneficial for developers, IT professionals, and tech guys. So here are some key reasons why you should consider mastering Linux. So Linux powers over 96% of the world top 1 million web servers used in cloud computing, DevOps, cybersecurity, and networking. Major tech companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, etc. rely on Linux machine. Importance in DevOps essential for developers and DevOps. Many programming tools and framework run best on Linux. Essential for DevOps and containerization like Docker, Kubernetes, and cloud service. We will discuss about the Dockers and Kubernetes in our next upcoming series. So don't worry about these hard words for now. You just have to focus for now the Linux. I'm just giving you the introduction in this video, and the upcoming videos that we're going to do some practical work. You just have to stick for these 4 to 5 videos, especially for the Linux, and after that you will become an expert on a Linux machine. So Linux provides basically superior scripting capabilities with Bash, Python, and shell scripting. History of Unix and Linux. You know that Unix basically started at Bell Labs, but before that, you know that it's they started to work on this in 1960. AT&T, Bell Labs, MIT, and General Electric were developing Multics. Multics was basically the multiplex information and computing services, and ambitious multi-user OS. In 1969, basically they withdrawn their concept, and after that, because they thought that they were not able to continue with this one, so that was the scary part at that time for them. The Ken Thompson and Danny Ritchie and others at AT&T Bell Labs were dissatisfied with the multics complexity, so they withdrawn that concept. But later, the Ken Thompson developed a simpler OS for a PDP-7 mini computer, initially called as Unix, a Uniplus Information and Computing Services, later shortened to Unix. So then after that, the growth of the Unix started. So 1971, basically the first official Unix version released at Bell Labs, written in assembly language. In 1973, Dennis Ritchie rewrote Unix in C programming language, making it portable to different hardwares. In 1975, Unix version 6 released outside AT&T and adopted by universities, for example, Berkeley at that time. In 1977, the Berkeley Software Distribution BSD version of Unix emerged, introducing powerful features. Let's start with some Unix flavors, because at that time, the Unix was in market, so the big giant at that time also jump into that and start to capture this one. So at that time, the Unix flavors are used by the IBM AX and the Sun Solaris, Mac OS, HP UX. Linux is the computer drummer. We will discuss about this one, that how the Linux basically comes up. Linux is not in place at that time, so we'll discuss about this one. As you know that IBM, Sun Microsystem, and Apple and HP. So Linux, regarding the Linux is not a Unix derivative, but was inspired by Unix concept. We'll discuss about the Linux, that when the Linux actually started. The birth of Linux. Now let's discuss about the birth of Linux. In 1991, basically the Linus Torvalds. Linus Torvalds was a student, wanted to work in Unix machine for some assignment, but at that time, as you know that the big giant was already captured the Unix, and at that time they were asking for $5,000 to use that. So that was a too much amount at that time, even for the professional and even for students, of course for the students as well. Might be you heard about the GNU, that was the free software movement started. You know that the big giant companies already captures the tech area. So but they are charging a lot of money at that time. In order to handle this situation, Linus Torvalds was very upset at that time because he wanted to use the Unix. So he thought that why not he come up with his own kernel, and so but for that one, that his professor's name was Andrew Tenenbaum. Basically, he made a Minix for his students, and initially he used that concept as a Minix that was derived from Unix. But Linus Torvalds want that he should able to make his own Linux machine, and but he should not use the Unix at all. So although he get the concept from the Unix, but he started everything from scratch. But Minix prepared by his professor, but that was just for the assignment purposes and for student learning. But Linus Torvalds wanted that he should come up with some further idea, and he should enhance this one. He just wanted to make it open source, so the rest of the world should able to use it. Finally, he come up with this idea, and he prepared everything. He come up with the Linux kernel. One thing, remember you guys, Linux is a kernel. Linux is not an OS until and unless we merge with the GNU. You know that GNU is basically command line utility and essential OS functions. Linux is just a kernel, and kernel manages hardware, processes, memory, and security. This slide I will explain to you later on as well, but just to give you the heads up here that that Android is also based on the Linux machine. Linux is a kernel, and by using the Android, then it become an OS. So types of software that and the different information that you can use, you can see it here, but I'm not going to highlight this information properly in this slide, in this discussion, because I don't want to mess up the things here. So now let's move to the next slide, and I will come back to this again. Now let's discuss about the popular Linux distributions. You must heard about that one, the Red Hat Enterprise in Linux, that is an enterprise servers, and the Fedora, that is cutting edge features, community driven, Debian, stable, widely used for servers, user friendly, third most used OS, right? CentOS. The servers oriented community based, basically is driven by the Red Hat Enterprise. And the Kali Linux, might be you heard about this Kali Linux. Kali Linux is basically used by the hackers, and for the cybersecurity students, they also use the Kali Linux. It is also used for the ethical hacking as well, and we will discuss about the Kali Linux in future as well in upcoming series. So Linux versus Windows, this is a very interesting comparison. You already know about this one, of course, that because you guys are already using the Windows, so you know that Windows is not an open source, and you already know that is a paid license we required, and security wise vulnerable, you already know that one. And virus protection, that is protected up to some extent. We have to install the antiviruses, and of course it requires the antivirus. And if we compare with the RAM usage, you know that if we have the 50 GB RAM, but by using the 1 GB RAM of the Linux machine, that is compatible, or you can say that is more fast if you compare with the Windows system. So that's why the Linux is super fast, although it's a very it's not a user friendly, because most of the users are seeing that it's not like the window we cannot click it here. But once you know that for the DevOps students especially, once they start get with the commands and they able to understand the command, they will really love it. So I would really suggest you that you must have some idea about the Linux, and once you start using Linux, then you will start hate the window. Why is Linux secure? Now system wide widespread, a virus can only affect one file or folder. No need for antivirus, just replace delete the infected files. You know that hackers target Windows 95%. Linux requires learning thousands of commands. For example, if one file is affected, that you can just, it will not spread all over the Linux machine. But in the window, you know that if virus is inserted, then it will affect the entire system, and you have to reinstall the window in order to start resume your work. Android is built on Linux, used for security, privacy, and reliability. Linux feature, as you already know, as I discussed in my previous slide, the Linux features is open source, no licensing restrictions, secure, highly resistance to malware, lightweight, uses minimal RAM and CPU resources, multi-user, multitasking. Many users can work on this same system. Easy software update, one command updates everything. So I have listed on top 50 Linux command you must know, but you don't have to worry about everything at this stage. We're going to use this command one by one, but the most common command that you will require, that will be up to 1 to 15 you can say that would be command. But this 50 commands, if you remember it, that will really help you in future. As a DevOps, I will really suggest you that you should remember this one. We will use it one by one, all the commands in the Linux machine. And how to update the Linux? You can update your Linux with just one command, that is the chef update, right? Just use this one, this it will update the Linux machine. What we learned today: Linux history and basic, why Linux is secure and lightweight, Linux versus Windows comparison, popular Linux distribution. We discuss about this. And thank you guys for watching this one, and stay tuned with this channel. I'm going to come up with the practical example for the Linux for next 4 to 5 videos. If you just stick with this series, then I'm sure that you will become a very expert on with the Linux expertise.